Thank you very much, Chairman Larson and members of the committee. For the record, my name is Carlos Rubenstein. I'm principal of RSAH2O, and also for transparency, I'm also serving as a senior advisor for Poseidon Water. But I'm here today more to talk about from the perspective of having served at the Water Development Board on water planning issues and also at the TCEQ on permitting issues. Clearly, Texas already, and I'm here, by the way, for the bill. Texas already enjoys a robust water planning process which serves as a national model, and it's not surprising that others try to imitate and implement what Texas has already done, and we continue to look at ways on how we can continue to improve those processes. House Bill 2948, in my mind, could provide a mechanism for even more effective regional and state water planning. You know, Senate Bill 1 in 1997 shifted water planning focus appropriately to local water user groups, representatives, and charged them to study their future water needs and plan for how to effectively address those over a 50-year horizon. Since 1997, we have also seen disagreements as it relates to shared water resources and cross-regional disputes that at times have also resulted in legal action. We have also experienced persistent droughts and also some devastating floods. The drought of 2011 resulted in water right curtailments and disagreements with court rulings on how to administer future senior calls. Passage of House Bill 4, creating the SWIFT, placed an even greater focus and incentive to continue to better manage our existing resources through conservation and reuse, while also looking for new and innovative water projects. House Bill 2948 calls for the establishment of an interregional planning council consisting of one member from each of the existing regional water planning groups. The council would meet during the interim between adoption of new state water plans to facilitate dialogue and exchange of best practices concepts between the regions and water strategies that could affect multiple regions. It would be incorrect to assume that discussions do not occur between the regions today. In fact, they do. We've had them, when I was at the board, we had those discussions, and I know that Chairman Brune, you've had those discussions continuing as well, as I recall. During our planning history, we have seen unexpected increases in water use between planning cycles. The dialogue called for under House Bill 2948 could assist in more timely discussing and identifying better responses to those unexpected changes in water use. Among the topics that I would envision the council could take up, as some have already been outlined in the House Bill 2948, could be drought response strategies, particularly in light with the recent Farm Bureau case against the TCEQ and that decision. Add greater clarity to the drought stage restrictions from a regional perspective, while at the same time recognizing and respecting the senior priority of already issued rights. Management and identification of water resources that could, one, mitigate shortages or address environmental needs, or promote voluntary transfers of water, or under the most serious conditions, perhaps facilitate 11-139 emergency transfers of water, particularly, again, in light of the Farm Bureau case. We also should have an honest discussion on how to better identify and calculate the area of origin impacts, and that's a discussion that could be had at this council level as well. We should focus on perhaps more feasible, viable, and sustainable large-scale water strategies, such as aquifer storage and recovery, seawater and brackish groundwater desalination. And along those lines, we would all be well served in our planning process to also have a more comprehensive discussion of what it means to have a viable, feasible, and sustainable water strategy that we're banking on. Including in those discussions, you could also have some talk about alternate delivery mechanisms from a financial perspective for those projects, including private capital investment. And yes, set goals and look for better ways to track our consumptive use patterns via our efforts to quantify gallons per capita per day. In summary, the dialogue called for under House Bill 2948 and the deliberations by the Interregional Council can lead to ways to improve on our already successful planning process. For these reasons, I am pleased to be here speaking for the bill. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Carlos.
Thank you.
Anybody have any questions for Carlos? Yeah, Representative Frank.
I appreciate you being here to testify. I was thinking about, because I applaud the purpose of the bill. The regions have always maybe not confused me. Can we talk about, because we're talking about having one person from each region, and one of the comments I hear about the regions, because not even the regions all work together, because often they are competing for the same, I guess we created the regions. Let me ask this question. How are the regions created? Because they're competing oftentimes for the same source of water. What I'm concerned about is typically only the big guy is going to be represented from the region because they're going to win the vote. So tell me how the regions were. I know you know the history of
Yeah,
it.
Senate Bill 1 it designated the regional planning process in 1997 that we're under, and charged the Water Development Board with developing the mechanism. And I know that there's water development folks staff here that could better address it as well, but it charged the regional the board with outlining the regional planning groups, setting the various water user groups that are to be represented. And as we have continued to modify the planning process, whether it be Senate Bill 2 or Senate Bill 3, House Bill 4, different things to consider in the planning process itself came through. Each of the water user groups is represented at the regional level. I do not, in my reading of the bill, that does not appear to change.
No, it doesn't change at all. I guess I'm trying to figure out, in terms of working together to make sure that whoever's representing the region include. If not, I know in our region is pretty well dominated by Wichita Falls, and some of the smaller users don't have much of a voice, I am told. And we have a very small region, but I would imagine that same dynamic exists everywhere.
The discussions at the regional planning level can be pretty interesting to see, to say the least.
Very carefully worded.
I agree, and I think also when House Bill 4 asked for the prioritization of water management strategies, I think that also puts folks in a better position to discuss their individual needs within the region, and I don't see this changing that whatsoever. The way I read the bill, there would be recommendations that would be made to the Water Development Board for selection of the Interregional Council. I don't see any of the actions or the recommendations that would come out of this council to change the decisions that have been made at the regional level. So for all those reasons,
I don't.
It
doesn't. I was more asking because I had a smart
Yeah.
person up that could answer that question.
Understood.
So, all right. Thank you.
You bet.
Anybody else have any questions for Carlos? Thank you very
Thank you all
much.
very much.
Thank you.